And now let's begin the program by telling you that the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, reaffirms its commitment to maintaining the stability and reliability of the country's financial system. In a statement by Acting Director Hakama Sidiari, Acting Director Corporate Communications Hakama Sidiari, the CBN assures the public that all bank deposits are secure. She explained that the bank enforces regulations and conducts regular stress tests to identify vulnerabilities and ensure the resilience of financial institutions. The Apex Bank has also implemented early warning systems to detect and address risk proactively. Though risk-based supervision, the CBN focuses its oversight on institutions that pose the highest risk. The CBN assures that it remains dedicated to safeguarding the financial interests of all Nigerians and stakeholders. The Director General of the Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, Motimi Agama, has called for smart regulation to balance the rapid growth of fintech with the need for investor protection and market integrity in Africa. Speaking at the Nigeria FinTech Week 2024 theme positioning Africa's fintech ecosystem to accelerate inclusive growth, Agama emphasized the potential of fintech to transform Africa's financial landscape while warning of significant regulatory risk. Agama highlighted the growing concerns around the misuse of investment data, vulnerability to cybersecurity attacks, and the rise of unregulated fintech firms raising public funds without proper oversight. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, represented by Minister of Budget and Economic Planning Atiku Bagudu, says the renewed hope agenda is Nigeria's strategy for confronting its economic reality and achieving higher, sustainable and inclusive growth. This was at the 54th Accountants Conference holding in Abuja. The president said key reforms like investment in agriculture, the digitization of revenue collection, consumer credit system to boost manufacturing and access to goods and services, in addition to the current CNG penetration for cheaper and alternative energy sources, among others, are already yielding results. He says these results are already reflecting through positive GDP growth, declining inflation, and stabilization of foreign exchange markets. He emphasized the importance of continued collaboration to strengthen institutions, foster a culture of accountability while leveraging cutting-edge technologies for transparency and efficiency. The president believes that together the accountants can develop actionable plans to lead Nigeria towards a future where governance is synonymous with integrity, transparency, and accountability. Let's head to the energy market, where oil prices erased early gains on Wednesday as weak demand fundamentals and rising supply countered elevated risk of supply disruption from conflict in the Middle East and Hurricane Milton in the United States. Brent crude futures were down 36 cents or 0.47% at $76.82 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude lost 43 cents or 0.58% to $73.14. Brent and WTI both gained more than 1% earlier in the session after prices had plunged in Tuesday by more than 4% on a possible Hezbollah-Israeli ceasefire, though markets remain wary of a potential Israeli attack on Iran or Iranian oil infrastructure. Now, gold extends 4 to 6 days ahead of Federal Reserve and U.S. inflation data. Read that leveraging on data is a sure way to achieving financial and economic inclusion. Maria Ado-Zakari reports that this was at the roundtable on insurance hosted by Vice President of Nigeria.
Almost for the first time, we're looking at the insurance as a financial service. A lot of people, when they talk of financial inclusion, are limited to simply banking services.
A state just issued a notice to the effect that people have to leave their homes. Whilst this will look like something that is anticipated, it is not something you would imagine the state of those who this event would have affected. Inclusive insurance has the power to change this narrative.
The Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, has revealed that the Lagos and Abuja airports each spend over 1 billion naira monthly on energy consumption. Keyamo explained that the increase in electricity cost have added to the financial burden on both flight operations and the airline industry. And now to our discussion segment, the federal government has recently published gazetted withholding tax regulations. Taiwo Edele, chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, via his X handle says the regulations grant rates reduction and full exemption from withholding tax to small businesses with annual turnover not exceeding 25 million naira. He added that the commencement date of the new regulation is September 30th, while implementation begins on January 1st, 2025. Now, to allow for a minimum of 90 days notice required for the tax changes in line with the 2017 National Tax Policy. Joining us virtually is Professor Williams. Professor, a very good afternoon to you.
Afternoon. Thank you very much. Welcome. And
okay, Professor, just to start the conversation, just give us a picture of what this withholding tax entails now that we have it, and by next year, definitely the implementation starts by next year.
Yeah, actually, I think it's necessary we understand what really is the withholding tax.
Tell us.
Withholding tax is not a tax on itself. It's just because you are able to fulfill the characteristics of a tax. Because for one to be said to be a tax and issue to be object to be said to be a tax, there are three elements that must fulfill. There must be a backup law. There must be a rate, which will be an high or low rate, and there might be a tax base. So that's the reason why it has now become a tax, because I've been able to have those elements, the three basic elements that constitute a tax. But for the withholding tax, as I said, it's not a tax. Even in this new regulation, Section 5, stipulate that fact, because it's just an advance deduction from a taxable withholding tax transaction in view of the submissions of a self-assessment tax by the individual to the relevant tax authority. What that means is that the taxable agent who is qualified by law to deduct withholding tax will now, upon submission of transactions, taxable transactions or invoice, debit advices, deduct requisite percentage of what is to be considered as a percentage to be deducted, and then send the relevant tax authority, and keep that in view, in account of that taxpayer as a credit to him, pending the submission of his tax returns. A taxpayer is expected for companies to submit returns after 6 months of his financial year. So when he submits the returns after 6 months of his financial year, he doesn't need to pay any tax again. What he will do is to deduct the deduct the tax already paid, and if the tax is supposed to pay is higher than what was deducted at advance tax on his credit, then it will pay more. But if it is less,
Prof, can you take us, Prof, can you take us through the key changes with the new regulation and how tell us how how it impacts on small businesses.
Oh, good. And then we have small businesses now. They are exempted if you are within the turnover threshold of 25 million. You are exempted from the withholding tax. You're not going to pay withholding tax. Um, Prior to this time, once you are running payee, pay as you earn scheme, you were qualified. But now they are exempted from payment of tax, withholding tax. So their transactions in based on that will not be deducted. Of course, it is very, very necessary because there was a time in the book I wrote some years ago, on accounting of taxation, withholding tax, I discovered the reason why these small businesses falls is because of the deduction of withholding tax. The rate of 5% being so high. In fact, not just only them alone, it equally affected construction companies. If you deduct withholding tax of 5% from construction companies, and these construction companies are having a very lean and minimal returns and net profit returns or net profit, and maybe like as it is in the industry of construction company at 6%, then you deduct 5% on that, and at the end of the day, the 30%, the caution effect is there that you have changed these people from getting funds because the 5% deducted is much. I can give you instance. For instance,
Okay.
if it is assuming that they just say, assuming that for instance you have a turnover of about 500,000, and the 500,000 as a turnover, 5% is taken as a deduction as withholding tax. That means you are going to pay an amount of about 25,000 naira as a deduction from withholding tax. Now, at the end of the day, your net profit, your margin net profit is 6%, 6% marginal net profit that you have. Then if you take 30% of that, your tax supposed to be 9,000 naira. So invariably, it means that if you deduct 25,000 from 9,000, government will refund you 16,000 naira. If that 16,000 naira is not refunded to you, invariably it's going to affect your capital. And that's why, thank God for the new regime of the president that has come to terms with reality now, that has reduced it to 2%, so that construction companies can be able to at least have a breathing space to be able to have funds to run their operations.
Okay, okay. Well, what does this mean for, or how does it impact on foreign companies operating in Nigeria?
Okay, good. Foreign companies operating in Nigeria, if you have what we call a permanent establishment, for you to have a permanent establishment means that you have your office in Nigeria, you have as a branch, you have a factory, in fact, you have a presence, and then because of that, you are supposed to you're supposed to attract withholding tax as well on the applicable rate. But the fact there is that if you are in countries that have double taxation treaty with Nigeria, such you are going to enjoy, you're going to enjoy a waiver, which you're going to be only 75%. We are attracted to that. But come to say this, the fact that non-resident companies in Nigeria that are having transaction in Nigeria, if you import goods into Nigeria, it has zero rating withholding tax. The goods you import does not apply withholding tax. So it's a new method that would assist those companies in non-residents in Nigeria to be able to have a point of so-called. Don't forget that the benchmark here is a reduction, some of the reductions in the aspect of transactions. For instance, construction companies is reduced to 2%.
Okay.
2%. Yes.
Well, I'm afraid Professor Ezekiel Adam Williams, I'm afraid we're out of time, and I think we'll just
Thank
leave
you
it
very
there.
much.
It's an
Thank
ongoing
you very much.
conversation. We'll definitely talk more about it. Thank
All
you
right.
for
Yeah.
sharing your thought with
And
us.
thank you for your
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
Thank you. Hope you have given me a better time to give more
Okay, beautiful.
explanation.
Let's now
It's an issue
and
that
now
needs to be
to
known.
global stock markets. Equities markets in Nigeria closed on a negative note this Wednesday, dropping further to 97,487.14 basis point. Equity capitalization depreciated to 56.019 trillion naira. Investors exchanged 356.134 million shares, valued at 6.952 billion naira in 8,582 deals. And now to global stocks market. European markets trade higher, but sentiment dampened by volatility in China. Let's now join Maria Ado-Zakari for global updates. Over to you, Maria. Let's have the figures.
Of course, let's have the figures now, Musa. On global markets, the markets are mostly bearish this afternoon. European markets traded slightly higher as positive sentiment wavered in the region. This was spurred on by volatility in China. The figures now have DAX up by 0.31%. CAC FTSE was higher by 0.29%. CAC was higher also by 0.32%. Asian markets have Chinese stocks selling off in a volatile day of trading amidst mixed Asia-Pacific markets. Investors are focused on policy decisions from the Reserve Bank of New Zealand and the Reserve Bank of India. Looking at the figures, we have Nikkei up by 0.87%. We have Shanghai Composite down by 6.62%. We have Hang Seng Index, which slipped 1.38%. U.S. stock futures slightly fall following a winning streak for the major averages. Wall Street is coming off a strong session driven by tech sector gains and easing in oil prices. Dow Jones figures are down by 0.08%. We have S&P 500, which was higher by 0.05%. Nasdaq Composite followed suit at 0.00%. Africa markets are low this afternoon. South Africa JSE Top 40 down by 0.83%. We have Tunisia Tune Index lower by 0.15%. Namibia All Share Index followed suit at 0.47%. Ghana was marginal. That's the summary of the global market for today. I am Maria Ado-Zakari. It's back to you, Musa.
Thank you, Maria, for that update. Well, the U.S. said it may ask a judge to force Alphabet's GOOGLO opens new tab Google to divest parts of its business, such as its Chrome browser and Android operating system that it says are used to maintain an illegal monopoly in online search. In a landmark case, a judge found in August that Google, which processes 90% of U.S. internet searches, had built an illegal monopoly. The Justice Department's proposed remedies have the potential to reshape how Americans find information on the internet while sprinkling Google's revenues and giving its competitors more room to grow. And now to the currency market, the dollar index drifted sideways as the naira showed some strength at the official market on Wednesday. Let's see the official exchange rate. Well, that's it. This is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. From all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. I'm Musa Bakar. Thanks for your company.